If you're standing up a generative AI feature on Azure, you've hit three overlapping names: Azure AI Foundry, Azure OpenAI, and Azure Machine Learning. They sound interchangeable. They are not. In this video, I'll build one realistic thing end-to-end, a retrieval-augmented chat assistant over your own documents, and at each step, I'll show you exactly which of the three services you reach for and why. By the end, you'll know where each one starts and stops, and you'll be able to draw this architecture from memory. Cloud naming shifts fast, so confirm current names in the Azure docs. Let's separate them cleanly. Azure OpenAI is the model layer, a hosted endpoint giving you GPT-4o embeddings and similar models behind your own private deployment with content filters and your data boundary. Azure AI Foundry is the build and orchestrate layer sitting on top, a portal, an SDK, a model catalog of OpenAI plus open models plus agents, evaluations, and prompt orchestration. Azure Machine Learning is the full lifecycle platform for custom models, training jobs, pipelines, experiment tracking, model registries, and managed online endpoints. Think model, build platform, and custom model factory. First decision, do you start in Foundry or call Azure OpenAI directly? If you just need a single model endpoint wired into existing code, deploy an Azure OpenAI model and hit the REST or SDK endpoint. You skip a layer. But the moment you want a model catalog, built-in evaluation runs, content safety, tracing, and agent orchestration in one project, start in a Foundry project. Foundry provisions the underlying Azure OpenAI resource for you anyway. My rule of thumb: anything beyond a quick prototype goes through a Foundry project for the governance and observability. Now build. In the Foundry portal, I create a hub, then a project under it. The hub holds shared resources, connections, storage, Key Vault, and an Azure OpenAI connection. Inside the project, I open the model catalog and deploy GPT-4o for chat and a text embedding model for vectors. Each deployment gets a name, a region, and a tokens per minute quota, so check quota limits and regional availability before you commit. I also create a connection to Azure AI Search, which will hold my document index. That connection plumbing is what makes the next step trivial. With models deployed, I build the retrieval flow inside Foundry. I point the data ingestion at my documents in blob storage. Foundry chunks them, calls the embedding deployment, and writes vectors into the Azure AI Search index. Then I assemble the chat flow. Take the user question, embed it, retrieve top matching chunks, and stuff them into a grounded prompt sent to GPT-4o. I test this in the playground, then run an evaluation batch scoring groundedness and relevance. This is the core loop. And notice I haven't touched Azure Machine Learning yet. So where does Azure Machine Learning come in? You drop down to it when prompt engineering and retrieval aren't enough. Fine-tuning a model on proprietary patterns, training a custom classifier, running distributed training on GPU clusters, or building a reproducible pipeline with version datasets and a model registry, that's all Azure ML territory. Foundry and Azure ML share the same workspace plumbing. So a model you fine-tune in Azure ML can be registered and surfaced back in your Foundry project. Most GenAI apps never need this. Reach for it only when generic models genuinely fall short. Time to ship and confirm it works. From Foundry, I deploy the flow as a managed online endpoint, which gives me a scored REST endpoint with a key and auto-scaling. My application calls that endpoint, not the raw model. To verify, I check three things. The endpoint returns grounded answers citing real source chunks, the evaluation metrics for groundedness clear my threshold, and tracing shows token usage and latency per request. I wire those traces into Azure Monitor and set an alert on the tokens per minute quota so I catch throttling before users do. To recap the mental model, Azure OpenAI is the model endpoint. Azure AI Foundry is the platform where you build, orchestrate, evaluate, and ship GenAI apps on top of those models. And Azure Machine Learning is where you go for custom training and fine-tuning. For most retrieval and agent workloads, you live in Foundry and only touch the other two through it. Your one actionable takeaway: start every new GenAI project as a Foundry project, not a bare OpenAI resource, so you get evaluation and tracing from day one. And always check the current Azure docs, because these names and quotas change often. If this helped, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next video.